I'm co-host here tonight, Curtis Vanderwall.
Yes, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Look forward to helping out when time allows.
Absolutely, Curtis. I mean, you've been a race icon, and I am going to say icon, around here for a long time. You have many track championships. You've ran dirt cars. You've even ran some pavement. And, Curtis, you've had a really long race career. You're still doing some, but it's really cool. You're getting your son involved now. How's that been to get the boy following in your footsteps?
Yeah, that's really cool and a new venture. I try to take my roughly 30-plus years of experience and try to feed that to him to not let him make the same mistakes that I have through my career. So. It'll be interesting. We got out a couple times last year, ran really, really good, and we're just looking forward to more of that and him to learn and progress and just get faster and get more consistent. And as he does that, I think it's just a matter of time before he's battling towards the front of the pack.
Absolutely. It's just amazing that, you have the first generation racers being able to hand it off to the next generation and just see, how that goes through all the years. I mean, it's just crazy to think about all the great drivers we've had and then to see their kids get into it and to see where we are now with the sport. And now we have stuff like this going on. We have pre-race shows, Facebook, and that has become a big thing in the racing community. And it's just, I feel like racing has evolved so much around technology. How have you seen technology impact racing in a positive light?
Well, I mean, that's actually probably a pretty good debate out there, because you've got a lot of people that think that technology and advancing race car components and that sort of stuff is actually a negative thing, because with advancing technology usually comes rising costs, and the sport is more expensive now than it ever has been. So that's probably not a positive, but it's something that we need to address, and something that in my opinion the different sanctioning bodies, especially on the local level, have maybe not done the best job of keeping their arms around certain classes and what they're kind of the spirit of the class and kind of that. But at the same time, humanity in general has been progressing since the beginning of time. Where I think that technology is a really good thing is like on the safety side of things, right? Racing is still dangerous, but with seat and seatbelt, fire suit, helmet, head and neck restraint, race car construction, wall construction at racetracks, all those things are advancements in technology that make racing as safer than it's ever been. Now, that does not mean that it's safe by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, that's probably where the positives come in to it. So it's one of those things that continues to evolve, and it will always evolve, because that's what racers do, is they try to find the next best way to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And that's how it has been, with technology. There's the goods, there's the bads, and you kind of just have to roll with it at that point. And speaking of rolling with it, tonight here, folks, just so you have an idea of what the whole this is going to look like as far as what we're doing here. So right now we're actually in our intro, technically, and then we are very honored tonight. We have a couple great guests joining us. We have Chris Miniga, the Dirt Dog, here tonight. We're going to talk about the Redneck Rally coming up this weekend at the Southern Iowa Speedway. And we also have, I don't even know where to start with this. I would say one of the better hobby stock racers that we've had in this area. He left the sport for a while, got into some other things, UTV racing and such, and now we're seeing him back in a sport modified this year, and that is Jason Van Zomeren. So we're really excited to have those two on with us tonight. So real quick, we're going to take a short little break, and we'll be back live here with Chris Miniga, the Dirt Dog, in just a few moments.
All righty, thank you, Safe and Curtis. And again, you are watching the Tuesday Night Tune-Up TNT. We are broadcasting live from Smokey Row in Oskaloosa. We thank all of our sponsors for making our broadcast possible. That includes Milo's Tree Service, and you can contact Chris Minter at 641-683-2625 or 27, excuse me, as you can see on the screen there, 683-2627. Get a hold of him for some free estimates with Milo's Tree Service. We also thank Sinclair Napa for being one of our sponsors. You can get more information on Sinclair Napa at sinclairnapa.com. Also, we thank Van Donslar Automotive. You can stop by at 801 High Avenue West, Oskaloosa for diagnostics, brakes, oil changes, AC services, and more. 641-676-5239. And then our trio of Sigourney sponsors, Sigourney Body Shop, Tony Pitch and the gang at 210 Clark Street in Sigourney. We've got CJ Fitzgerald at Sigourney Motors for sales and service at 641-224-8056. And then Sigourney Tree Care. We've got Zeb Webb and crew. Sigourney Tree Care at 641-622-2097. We thank again our sponsors for making our broadcast possible. We are coming to you live from Smokey Row in downtown Oskaloosa. Feel free to always stop in at Smokey Row, maybe be part of the live broadcast and check things out live and in person. Get you a malt or a shake or something to eat during Tuesday evenings during the spring and summer. Let's go back to Safe. Safe has his first guest of the evening lined up. Safe, take it away.
Welcome back, race fans. You know, we get to cover a lot of broad racing around here. We have Eddyville Drag Strip down there with the dragsters. We have the circle track, the dirt circle track here in Oskaloosa at the Southern Iowa Speedway. We have so much racing we can talk about. We're going to talk about a newer form of racing that has popped up here in the last about 6 years or so. And none other than the man that really brought it around here, the one and only, the dirt dog himself, Chris Menninga. Chris, thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. It's great coming up here. It's been 8 years, actually. This is our 8th year.
Oh, my gosh, it is, isn't it?
Rallies. Yes.
Wow, I can't believe it. Time has flown, definitely, when you're having fun. And
it sure has.
I would say that's kind of what the heart and soul of the rally is. Am I wrong, Chris? Go out there, have fun, bash your car up.
It is absolutely. You know, when we started this, we came up with the idea of getting everybody able to race something. And so it started off as just beaters, you know, junk cars and junk trucks and this and that. And we have had as many as 160 vehicles show up for a 2-day show. And it's pretty crazy. And when I say it's budget friendly, it still is, but guys are getting carried away and they're getting a little extreme, you know, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so, you know, I remember when this first happened, I had just graduated high school. I'm not trying to make you feel old or anything. But I remember just the idea behind it, and all of a sudden, it's like the whole town of Oskaloosa, no matter where you drove, you saw an old Cavalier, an old truck, an old Malibu, Monte Carlo, something in everyone's yard getting it ready for this. And so what was that like? Because I feel like probably that first one was pretty overwhelming because I did not expect that much.
We went into that and we started talking about it and we made some flyers up, and next thing you know, we kind of had a problem on our hands because we had so many cars and so many racers show up for a one-day show. We had no idea what it was going to turn into. And I don't remember exactly how many people were racing that weekend, and I don't recall how many people were in the grandstands, but they were flat packed. The grandstands were full. There were people standing at the fences, and it was pretty awesome. It was cool.
I just remember going, and I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen, in the best way possible. I mean,
you know, I like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I like racing of every form. I'm not a big concrete guy.
Yeah.
I don't like racing on concrete. It's kind of, whatever. But anything dirt related, I'm big into desert stuff. I love watching desert racing, whether it's in 4 wheels or 2 wheels or whatever, the Baja stuff. And we just found a way to take junk cars and kind of race them on a dirt bike track. We build jumps, we build tabletops, whoop-de-doos, and we've learned a lot over the years on how to build a safe, exciting track something that doesn't destroy cars. The first time we did it, I think we absolutely killed like 75% of the cars. Absolutely. Wheels ripped off, A-arms busted, rolled over, on fire, this and that. I mean, it was nuts. Now, guys are figuring out how to build cars a little bit better, and they're making them last, but it's still just as exciting.
No, absolutely. And, I've been fortunate enough, this is my second year announcing for you.
We snagged you.
and that was a whole crazy deal how we got to that. But, going and watching, it always seems like you have something up your sleeve to do different at every rally. So why don't you tell us maybe about some of the new stuff? If the people don't know, I mean, I'm pretty excited for this rally coming up this weekend.
So every year something else comes up and gets popped up. We've added classes. So let me start off with our class, the classes we have. We do a front-wheel drive car class. We do a compact truck class. So S10s, Jeep Cherokees, Bronco 2s, stuff like that. But they have to be rear-wheel drive. So they take a Jeep Cherokee, pull the front drive shaft out of it, and you race it. There's really not engine limitations for that either. So guys are starting to stuff V8s and S10s, and they're getting pretty nasty and pretty extreme. The other class we have is hick chicks. So we had some women that wanted to race, maybe didn't feel as comfortable racing with the guys.
Can't say I don't blame them.
They're pretty not. I mean, guys get aggressive, and it's a race. It's not a demo derby. It's a race, but it's an aggressive race. So we added the hick chicks. It's an all women's class. Then we had kids that wanted to race, and so all right, we'll stick them with the girls. It's a little more timid, and so we did that. That was the way we've always done it. We also have an outlaw class. The outlaw class is, and I was just talking to Curtis. I'm like, dude, bring your legit race car, because I'm
not a good idea by the way. But if you do have one and you decide, you should. I'd like to see that.
We've had figure 8 cars show up. We've had 2-man cruiser cars show up, but in that class, anything goes. So Suburbans, pickups, figure 8 cars, Monte Carlos, front wheel drives. Everybody races that class. And it's pretty epic, It's crazy when a figure 8 car can outrun a 4-wheel drive pickup in the mud, because that did happen the first time we had an outlaw class.
It did. I remember that. That was nuts.
It comes down to driving, just flat driving. The guy drove the wheels off the car.
He did.
I mean, it was great. But so now this year, we've added a lot of new stuff, and this is a surprise to even some of my helpers, and they're going to hate me for it because it's just going to make the show bigger and longer. But we added pole start mini bikes, so the Briggs and Stratton style mini bikes. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you do to them, whatever. Put a helmet on, wear some boots, some gloves, and you're going to be racing it. And I think that class is going to explode. I think the mini bike, it's kind of a cult thing that just is picking up, and so that's going to be huge. We're racing lawnmowers. Again, I don't care what motor's in that lawnmower. Go-karts. I'm going to race the mini bikes and the go-karts together for now. And like I said, until it's a bad idea, which it probably will be pretty quick. So, we'll make a class for it. But then the new class that I actually just opened up today and made the announcement on is the driver's ed class. So 14 to 17-year-old kids can race this class with an adult with them. So I had a couple of parents who were like, yeah, I'd like my kid to race, but I'm nervous about it. So sure, ride with them. That way, we all learn to drive with our parents. So now these kids are going to get a chance to race with their parents, in the seat with them, teaching them how, showing them the rights, the wrongs, So that's pretty cool. I think that's going to be huge. I think it's going to explode. So,
no, I agree. It's just adding those classes that really help, I think, because it gives you something different every year. Because in my mind, I always think, what is Chris going to do this year?
Normal, and a lot of times it's just track. What am I going to do? Is it going to be is it going to be a gap jump? Is it going to be a tabletop in the front? Is it going to be just, we did that. The one year we did all these piles of dirt. They were 4 foot tall.
Yeah.
Just pile after pile, and you had to zigzag your way through them, and I don't know. I really don't know what the track's going to look like until we start dumping dirt on the ground. Hopefully tomorrow night is our plan for building track. Actually, Thursday night. Thursday night is when we build track. They're talking rain. We do have a backup plan if it rains on Thursday and we can't get the track built, but we'll
Well,
worry
we
about
hope you
that.
can.
We'll worry about that when
Yeah,
Mother Nature
we'll be
gets us a
fine.
little too wet.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, you know, one other thing I want to talk about that isn't rally related at all, but this is something really cool. So I grew up with your son, Tyler.
Yep.
And we were just kind of talking about this, and I just think this is really cool, and we need to throw it out there. You know, he is running in the Monster Jam series, driving Gravedigger.
Right. Yep.
And how cool has that been as a parent to see your kid involved with something like that? Because obviously, you know, that there's not very many of those drivers, and especially ones that are from Iowa.
Right. Yep. It's a pretty select group of guys that get to drive monster trucks, and so it's pretty awesome. We get to go watch him every once in a while. I was fortunate enough to be able to go watch him 3 times this year. He was in St. Louis, Indiana, and Minneapolis. So relatively close to home.
Yeah.
You know, to go check it out. And then, he's got a big one coming up, World Finals in LA. So
Man.
we're probably going to go to that and check that out. So
That's
it's pretty
awesome.
cool.
That is. Well, Chris, we want to thank you for your time. Real quick, I know you have a rundown of what the top payouts are
So-
in the classes.
I'm not going to break it completely down, but I'll go over the new stuff a little bit. So, our car class, truck class, outlaw class, hick chicks, it's a $2,000 payout per class. We pay the top 5. It's $1,000 to win, and it works its way down from there. The new mini bike class, mini bikes and go-karts, is going to be $300 to win, $200, $100. We'll pay top 3. Same with the lawnmowers. One thing I did not mention, which I should have remembered because I actually raced this class also, is we race side-by-sides.
Oh, yes.
So it's starting to gain some traction. We've had up to 15, 18 of them. Unfortunately, we have wrecked a few.
We have.
Pretty good. We've wrecked a few
Yes.
pretty good. But we try and build a track that's safe for everybody and that doesn't happen. That's a $1,000 payout, $500, $300, $200 for the side-by-sides. And the more I get, the higher that payout's going to be. All these payouts for the mini bikes, lawnmowers, and the side-by-sides all comes from sponsors. The Fair Board kind of takes care of everything else. And, they're dumping a bunch of money into it. So in order to help the Fair Board out, it means go to the weekly races. Go buy a beer, a popcorn, a hamburger, and they have great weekly Wednesday night races. It's an absolute blast. So check that out. Go to Facebook, go to Dirt Dog Promotions on Facebook. That's my page, and we've got some videos from past years and this and that. Check that out. So
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't come both nights, at least come one night. We're really excited. It's going to be a great rally this year. We look forward to new drivers, old drivers coming back, defending champs. So, Chris, again, we really want to thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for bringing a new sport around here. A new, it's just awesome to have something like this here in Oskaloosa. So,
thanks for having me. Come hang out with us hillbillies and stand around the fire after we're done and come check it out.
Absolutely. And again, folks, this is this coming Friday and Saturday at the Southern Iowa Speedway, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock on Friday.
5 o'clock on Saturday. I remembered.
You did.
I did a good job there, so maybe he'll give me a raise this year. We'll see. Alrighty, folks, we're going to go ahead and take a commercial break, and we'll be right back with Jason Van Zomeren in just a few minutes.
Alrighty, thanks, guys. And again, let's take a look at some of our sponsors that make our broadcast possible tonight. Again, we're live from Smokey Row in downtown Oskaloosa on a beautiful April evening. We do thank Milo's Tree Service. You can get a hold of Chris Minter at 641-683-2627. We also thank Sinclair Napa for being one of our sponsors tonight. Go to sinclairnapa.com. Van Donslar Automotive at 641-676-5239 in Oskaloosa, Iowa. And then our Sigourney Trio, Sigourney Body Shop at 210 Clark Street in Sigourney, plus Sigourney Motors. You can call 641-224-8056. And Sigourney Tree Care, Zeb Webb, at 641-622-2097. Again, we thank all of our sponsors for making our broadcast possible this evening. Let's take it back on stage with Safe Grafke. Safe, you got a whole stage full. Who you got with you?
Oh, doctor, check this one out. It's like we went from 2 and now there's 3 of us up here. What a sight to see. I didn't think we could cram 3 people up here, but we made it happen.
Especially large-shouldered individuals like the
that
three
is
of us.
so true. This is a small table. We probably make it look very small.
It's like we have an offensive line up on stage right
Defensive front.
Either way, we've got the start of something good.
Oh,
here,
man,
so.
I tell you what, this is crazy. So, again, we want to welcome Curtis back up here, our wonderful part-time co-host. And then we have a guy who made a name for himself here in the hobby stock division. We lost him for a while to some other sports, and now we have him back in the sport modified. This is Jason Van Zomeren. Jason, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jason, again, growing up, I watched you in a hobby stock, and then you left us for a while, and now you're back running a sport modified. So you've seen where the sport was and where the sport is now.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of probably the biggest changes that you have seen in these cars from years past to where we're at in the current time of that?
Biggest change probably cost. I mean, everything's just sky high now compared to what it used to be. You don't make stuff in your garage hardly anymore. You got to buy it. And then just the shock technology is way different back there in the day. Like we had one shock we could run back then, and now they've got several of them.
Yeah, so the rules obviously are some of that, but at the same time, some of that is just like everything else. I mean, a gallon of gas is considerably more than it was 15 years ago when you were racing. The cost of a new vehicle or a set of tires for your truck on the road, or all those things are a lot more. And you're exactly right. That's not lost in the racing world at all. If anything, it's probably maybe accelerated a little bit more in the racing world. So, what else do you think? Because it was about 15 years ago when you were really super competitive and doing that larger traveling deal where you were getting out. What was a typical week like for you when you were running that 2 to 3 nights a week deal? Walk us through kind of your maintenance side of things, and then the nights and where you were racing at.
Maintenance is like changing gears every night and just checking what you had time to. And we'd run Oski Wednesday night, and then Memphis, Missouri on Saturday night every week, and then we'd hit and miss on Friday nights with Bloomfield. I think we went to Donaldson a couple of times back then.
Yeah. How do you think that side of it compares to what is required today to be comparatively competitive? Do you think that it's significantly more work? 3 times more work? Is it how does that fit in there? Because I know, as we talked last year, you were sure surprised by the amount of tire work that goes into having a competitive car at this point. Walk us through how that's different than what you had back 15 years ago.
I mean, 15 years ago, like stock cars and modified, you couldn't even groove your tires back then. What you bought was what you got, and they lasted longer back then too. So, we'd run a tire till it was bald, and now you can groove them and sipe them, grind them about anything you want to, other than treating them. Unless you're good at not getting caught, you can treat them. But even the late models aren't doing that anymore.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, and this is open for both of you. Back then, there was always seemed to be the the big names in the chassis building world and the real dominant ones, and I'm not saying there isn't that anymore, but do you feel like there are more chassis builders now that we're starting to see around, or do you feel like maybe there's less than there was before?
There's definitely a lot more. You know, back in the day, we had Schroeder and McDaniel was building cars back then. There was like 2 or 3 around here, and now there's all kinds of, you know, Harris, Terminator, who else? Skyrocket.
Yeah, you know, and I think you're exactly right, and I think the other thing about it is too is you've got not only more overall, but you've got more of the that's what they do for a living type of situation. You know, like Randy Schroeder built an excellent car, but that wasn't what he did all day every day.
That was his night job.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I'm guessing the same for Bert with his chassis stuff down by Eldon. So I think that is probably a little bit less today as well. And then the larger manufacturer, you know, Harris is still around with their stuff, and then you've got, you know, Rage and GRT and all that stuff on the modified stuff. And I think the other thing too is a lot of those manufacturers are branching out and not just doing modifieds. You know, GRT does the modified stuff. Harris does the modified and the stock car and hobby stock stuff. You know,
Rage is building stock cars now.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got Andy and Dave and the Eckridges doing their performer deal on the modified and sport mod side of it. So I think that's a great question, Safe, and you see it be slightly different, but still a pretty wide variety out there.
Like the best hobby stock I had, me and Corey Danner built in my garage ourselves, and you don't do that anymore. You got There's so much technology gone into them that you just can't do it.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, on a mechanical side with tools and all that, you know, guys are making the special deal that you put onto the end of your impact now to take your lug nuts off and all that. I mean, going from where it was then to now, do you feel like if you do have a situation where you have to go in the hot pits now or something, that it's easier and faster for you to get some of this stuff done than it was back then? Like, you know, if you had 2 tires, you can change them faster than back then and actually think you can get back on the track in that lap time? I mean, what do you guys feel there?
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, it's no different than anything else. You know, lug nut socket technology is better than it was 15 or 20 years ago. Jack technology, you know, they're faster and lighter now. So I think that you see that from like the high levels of NASCAR that somewhat trickles down into what we do, and then again that specialization that you're talking about. You know, you get to that point where, yeah, there is a special lug socket for that, and before there was just an impact socket, right?
Yeah.
So Jason, you know, you ran a hobby stock and now you're in a sport modified. You know, back then, you know, now you have brake bias, some of these other things. What do you feel are some skills that you can bring from running a hobby stock to running a sport mod that you've been able to take some and maybe help you out a little bit? And
very little. They feel totally different. The adjustments are totally different. I mean, it's basically they kind of drive the same, but not really.
Right.
What about the speed sensation? You know, it seems like on a weekly race at the Southern Iowa Speedway, you know, obviously the sport mod is probably the fastest car around the track, and you know, the 4 cylinders and hobby stocks. I haven't put a stopwatch on either of those, I guess, but technology-wise speaking, they would probably be the maybe the slowest. Explain to the listeners and viewers what we're kind of feeling from the seat, especially in the aspect of how the speed affects that, or is the speed noticeable, I guess?
Oh yeah, it's definitely noticeable, especially in the sport mod. But even watching the hobby stocks, they're way faster now than when we were running them. I mean, we would lift at the flag stand and then get back on the gas, and now they're just running them flat out. I mean, it's way faster than it used to be.
Now, is that because of the technology, the geometry of the cars have changed, or
Shocks, yeah.
Okay.
Probably maybe the tires too. You know, even though the tires a little bit different in the hobby stock, being able to have that, being able to get that power and traction, you know, to the track, probably has a factor in that. It's darn impressive. You know, my dad always talked about that. You know, and what was a late model time in the late '60s, early '70s out at Oskaloosa would be, you know, would get lapped by a 4-cylinder car today. Quite frankly. You know, and it's a huge difference. So that's good perspective, Jason. Appreciate that.
So, Jason, what are some goals you have for yourself this year? You know, this is only your second year back in a car. So, taking away from last year, what are some things you're trying to get done this year?
Just keep learning. I mean, that's about all we can do. Just hope it falls where it should. Not tear the car up.
That's always a goal every
Yes.
time you unload it. So that's a good goal to have. What are your plans for this year? I know we've talked a little bit in the off season with you put a little bit different car together,
Yep.
and kind of improved your chassis and suspension side of things. What are your plans? You know, racing dates wise. I know you're going to try and do Oski. What else are you going to do?
We're going to run Donaldson. And then once Donaldson goes to Saturday nights, we're going to try and run CJ on Friday nights. And they got a little series between the two tracks. We're going to try and run that.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Cool.
that's nice. Both are great tracks too. That are
Yes.
outside of here, that are just south and kind of east of here. Just, you know, that's the thing, Jason. You know, you talked earlier when you were running your hobby stock about all the tracks you would travel to and stuff like that. Do you feel maybe that you still have that opportunity where if there's not something somewhere, you can go somewhere else within a reasonable distance and still race?
Yeah, it's that part of it's pretty much the same. It's just different places now. Because Memphis doesn't run much anymore. We were going to West Liberty last year off and on. They're not going to run this year. Yeah, I mean, pretty much there's the same amount of tracks basically. They're just different from where we used to go.
Yeah, what are some things you've noticed at these tracks that have really changed since you ran there, you know, 15 years ago to now that are different, or some things that really stick out to you that are obviously noticeably different?
Honestly, just the speed of them. I mean, the tracks all look the same than what they did 15 years ago. They're all faster than they used to be. Yeah, that's about it.
So this is one that I want to bring up to both of you. I want to get your opinions on this because we've talked about technology a lot, and this is something that we're starting to see, and that is the virtual flagman, where they don't have someone in the flag stand anymore.
Yeah.
They're going to the lights.
Yeah, Lincoln out in Pennsylvania has
Yeah.
that, right?
How do you guys feel about that? Because for me, I always feel like, honestly, the flagman is kind of a staple of the racetrack. And you guys being around it for so long, what would you be like if all of a sudden, instead of having Doug Hack up there, there's a set of LED lights?
At my age, I can't hardly see the flagman anymore anyway. So,
And you're going so fast.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not against the lights in the car, but I still think there needs to be somebody on the flag stand to see what's going on, because he's got the best view.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as somebody who has flagged a few races over the years, and that's something that I really enjoyed. I'm with you. There's no better seat in the house, to see exactly what's going on. And the amount of communication that happens between a flagman and the racers is so much more than the actual flags being waved, right? There's a lot of things that can get done, especially with the invent of the one-way communication through the receiver type situation. And I'm not a big fan of the flagman being on the receiver. I think that job needs to be two different people, because two different vantage points can usually figure something out better than one vantage point. But I'm with Jason on this. I'm not a huge fan of that, just simply because of I think that human element there and the extra communication that just having a 3 foot by 4 foot panel that just displays the flag, or says halfway on it, or says, white flag or yellow flag or blue flag, with the move over flag, how the flagman waves it or holds it is an indication to the slower car where to go or what to do, and you completely lose that in that situation. I understand the thought process behind it. I just don't necessarily agree with it, and I think there's too many issues to potentially overcome.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, why don't you tell us here a little bit? I've seen a photo of the car, at least. Not everyone listening or watching has. Why don't you tell us who's on the side of the 3Z this year?
We've got a couple new ones this year. Greg Gunn Toyota out of Tumwa, Mahaska Bottling and Mountain Dew. They're on there this year. A&E Tire, S&J Auto, Legacy Real Estate. She's new this year, and Precision Performance, and then Curtis Vans Racing.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Safe, you're right. He's got a wonderful looking paint scheme this year, and it's
great.
I say paint scheme. I just dated myself, I guess, a little bit.
It's okay.
It's obviously
We'll
a wrap,
forgive you.
but at the same time, that's it is a scheme that will absolutely stand out on any racetrack, and works very well. The colors and the design are well done. Kudos to you and your family going through and getting that design, Jace. It looks really well.
Good job, Jason. Well, we want to thank you for coming on tonight on the first episode of TNT, the Tuesday Night Tune-Up. We're going to take a break, and then Curtis and I will be back in just a few moments.
All righty, thank you, Safe. And again, we thank you for tuning in to TNT Tuesday Night Tune-Up. Again, we're broadcasting live from Smokey Row in downtown Oskaloosa. If you ever want to just stop in on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock and be part of the live audience and check things out in person, feel free to do that and get yourself something to eat or drink and take part here at Smokey Row. We do thank Milo's Tree Service for being one of our sponsors. You can always contact Chris Minter at 641-683-2627. Sinclair Napa, go to sinclairnapa.com. We have Van Donslar Automotive at 641-676-5239 in Oskaloosa. We go over to Sigourney for Sigourney Body Shop, 210 Clark Street in Sigourney. We'll stay in Sigourney with Sigourney Motors at 641-224-8056 and Sigourney Tree Care. Zeb Webb at 641-622-2097. Now, also want to point out that we have plenty of room for sponsors here on Tuesday Night Tune-Up. So if you want to be a sponsor on the show, just message me here on my Facebook page at Steve Shetler Media, or give me an email at steveshetlermedia@gmail.com. All right, let's take it back to the stage with Safe and Curtis. Guys, take it away.
Welcome back, race fans, to this episode of TNT as we are on to our last segment of the night. Again, I'm your host, Safe Grafke, and with me, our part-time co-host, Curtis Vanderwall.
Does this mean the white flag's out, man?
It does mean the white flag is
okay.
out. It is flying high. Doug Flack's got that thing just a-flapping.
That's good. That's good.
So now it's the fun part of the night for me, besides the interviews, which is really fun. This is just fun. But this is where we can get into some more meat and potatoes, as I call it. We're going to go through some results for you all right now, because I know that not everyone has time to find them and such. Luckily that I, part-time, can do that still.
Someone at this table is an expert at that, and it is not me.
No,
so
well.
that's an area that you shine with that, and that's amazing how connected you are to not only the racing locally, but regionally and even nationally. It's pretty awesome. So go ahead and jump into some of the recent results on the 4 main dirt racing series here, and then we can talk about some other local stuff, and then maybe get into a couple
we have
other
some controversies to talk
interesting
about.
controversial stuff.
Don't worry, but you got to hang with us through this part to get to the real meat part of this. This is just the appetizer right now. So first off, we're going to start with the World Outlaws doing their once of their twice-a-year visit down to the I-55 Speedway in Peevely, Missouri. Personally, probably my favorite sprint car track to go to. You're talking a third-mile, high-banked clay track. They get to run open headers down there. It was once described to me as watching fighter jets in a gymnasium.
I think you're exactly right. I think it puts on very good races down there, and they always seem to be entertaining, no matter the track conditions. And I know over the years they've had some wide variety of track conditions, especially with this early spring race that they have down there. It can lead to some tracks with character in them. So
it does. I've been lucky to be down there twice, and character is almost an understatement. My friend and I were standing next to Kenny Wallace. We were lucky enough to meet him down there, and about a few minutes later, after the races are done, there's a kid out on the track laying like he's in a coffin in one of the holes in the track, and Kenny's like, I gotta get a photo of that, and it's like, holy cow. So character is an understatement, but they do manage to put on a great show there. So Friday night number 1, your winner, driving the number 2 car, that was David Gravel. David has been on fire this year. He has the most wins so far with the World Outlaw Tour with 3 wins. He's already in the number 1 spot for points. I mean, he is really trying to make up for lost time. He's been close to points championships. Unfortunately, the big cat has got him every year. But David, just talking to him, he feels like this is his year to come out and really shine with this tour.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You know, with Brad Sweet not running the full Outlaw Tour this year and focusing on the high limit side of things, I think the door's wide open for David. And you know, that could go 2 ways. He could have come out and stumbled a little bit because of that extra pressure that he's feeling on himself. You know, internally and externally, everybody kind of is pointing to him as the guy to go to the number 1 step at the end of the year. But he has, you're right, he's come out, he's on fire. He's running really good. But at the same time, just like Saturday night at I-55 went, who's on his heels in the points?
Exactly. The one and only, the man that is... He's had over 500 career wins now. Over 500. And that is a very, very, very big number in the World of Outlaws. It couldn't go to anyone else but Donnie Schatz, still driving for Tony Stewart Racing in the number 15 car. Another great-looking paint scheme this year. I might add that as well, but you wouldn't expect any less from this guy. And last year we saw him stumble most of the season. Didn't have the year he was looking for, but still managed to have a respectable year in point standing wise. But Donnie Schatz this year, this is his second win of the year, so he's only 1 behind Gravel. He's only 48 points back in the point standing. I mean, you want to talk about a guy, and if you don't know this, the Outlaws rely heavily on time trials. And this guy,
some would say too heavily on time trials potentially, but that is how their format's set up, and you're exactly right. You know, the time trials really, whether it's in the sprint car or the late model side of things, the time trial sets the stage for your night, and that's an area that Donnie has improved immensely on, and getting a handle on that different power plant and getting more familiar with it, and getting the chassis to to Donnie's liking. It appears as though they're for real. Last year some people thought his good runs were maybe just flukes or just hit and miss type things. But boy, I tell you what, this year it looks like he's in for the long haul, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, he's definitely showing off his muscles here, and he's doing a very, very good job of that. So we have Donnie getting second in points there and winning Saturday night. And then just a quick rundown for you for the other winners we have so far on the year with the Outlaws. He's not in the top 5 in points, believe it or not, but he does have 2 wins on the year. That is the number 17 car of Sheldon Hodenshield. So Sheldon, he's
kind of a win it or wear it type of guy. They either win
true.
or they have a mechanical issue or he gets mixed up in something and not always his own doing.
No.
But he, just like his dad, he is on the gas, and he's
puts it on the high side.
He's exciting. He's an exciting dude to watch.
I remember it was at Peevely last year when we were there, getting ready to take the green flag. He flipped. Getting ready to, they hadn't even dropped the flag yet, and he got into the back of another car, flipped, and within 2 minutes, they had the old rear axle out and a new one in.
Wow.
I kid you not, 8 teams were there, and it's like you can't even see the car at that point. You just see people everywhere. But, earlier we talked about how technology has changed. Talk about that. Back in the day, you would have never, ever seen anyone that flipped go in, rip out their old rear end, and get a new one in and make it back out on the track.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I can't remember. Maybe it has happened, but I personally can't remember it in any race I went to, and I've been to a lot of races at Knoxville over the years growing up. I've seen front axles, but that's significantly easier, right? I mean, you're talking about way less components that tie to the axle there. So, one, that's a testament to the teams, right? They're more prepared than they ever have been. They have all that stuff sitting there ready to go. But number 2, the camaraderie and the sportsmanship, because like you said, there's 7 or 8 teams working on that thing, and nobody really probably has to say a lot because they all kind of know and can really communicate without actually talking about it. So it's pretty wild deal.
Yeah, no. So then our next in points, he has 1 win on the year, 3rd in points, another young driver who I got to watch at one of his first sprint car races at 34. I looked at Alex and said, this kid is going to be something here in a few years, and it's Hot Sauce Giovanni Selzi. I mean, I just think it's hilarious. This kid comes from a drag racing family. His dad probably
world champion top fuel racer,
Gary Selzi, one of the best we've ever seen in that league. And both of his boys, because Dominic does dirt car racing too, sprint cars.
Yeah, kind of on a little bit more of a regional basis, but
it's
yeah,
Gio
the last couple of years, he has been really good, and as we'll get into a little bit later, he's got a little bit of a personality too, so it makes it fun. Who's following Gio in rounding out the top 5 in outlaw points?
So behind Gio, we have a guy that has not won it all this year yet, but he has been up there on quick time, stuff like that. We have Logan Schuhart.
Real consistent for the season so far.
And I hope that continues for him. He always seems like he has a strong start. He has a decent middle, but then towards the end, there's always something that happens to that team. So we're hoping to see Logan stay competitive all year, because I think he's going to give these guys a really hard run for those top 2 spots. That's just a really well put together team. They have a good crew behind them. I mean, Bobby Allen. I mean, it's kind of hard to go against Scruffy. You know,
he's a crowd favorite. What did he win the 1990 Knoxville Nationals and one of the maybe arguably biggest upsets, if you will, and certainly a fan favorite. And he's done a great job building that team for Logan and Jacob running with running with the high limit group. He's done a great job getting that all put together and getting the right parts and pieces. And it hasn't always been sunshine and roses for that team. They started off and they were stretching every penny a long way. So it's really good to see them getting some of the support they need and getting consistent good finishes. And they're knocking on the door. And you know how that goes, Safe. You knock on the door long enough, the door's gonna open and they're gonna walk through and be in victory lane no time flat.
Absolutely. And then the last one win this year, 5th in points, is Carson Macedo driving the number 41 car for Jason Johnson Racing. Carson and I are good friends. I'm good friends with Phil Dietz and those guys, and they said this is kind of a rebuilding year. They lost Clyde Knepp. He went and started his own carbon fiber business, and then they lost their tire changer as well. Another good friend of mine, he's decided to move on. So they do have some rebuilding there, but again, 5th in points for basically a brand new team. But you never count out Phil Dietz. That is one guy that you can back him into a corner and he will find a way out of it very quickly.
Yeah, he can spin wrenches with the best of them, and he can solve a lot of problems. I think that they've got a bright future, and like you said, they're going to get everything lined out the way they need it, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for the rest of the year.
Absolutely. So moving on away from the sprint car world real quick, we'll get over to the World of Outlaw late model series. They ran the Illy 100 in Illinois over the weekend, and Friday night, what a barn burner that turned into right at the end there as Nick Hoffman pulls out a victory. It was like .003 or some
2 or 3
crazy
thousandths,
yeah.
Which when you think about that, what is that, 6 inches or something like that? It was a whale of a finish. He was leading the race, got into 3, and the car either pushed or he missed the line a little bit, and here comes Bobby Pierce right behind him.
Smooth operator.
And I tell you what, he rolled that thing right up there and made probably for the finish of the year so far, at least year to date, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. It was just so crazy to see that replay. That series is getting so good. It's getting really good. The Lucas Oil late models are getting really good.
Yeah,
and
both sides of that late model deal, whether you're the Lucas Oil fan or you're the World of Outlaws or both, I think that for a lot of years there was maybe some difference. One series was maybe viewed as a little bit higher level than the other one. I don't think you can say that. I think that the last couple of years and this year's going to be the same, that you're going to see an extremely high level of competition on both sides of the aisle there.
You will. And so then it's funny. So Nick Hoffman, by the way, he is so far the only 2-time winner in the World of Outlaw late model series. He got a win earlier this year down at Volusia, and then Mother Nature won a lot of those races. So it's cool to see Nick coming up. I always knew him as a modified guy. Mm-hmm. So seeing him transition into the late model world has been, most impressive. And he is definitely with a good team, has the right people behind him. He has a very bright future in the late model game. And then Saturday night, of course, had to redeem by losing from 6 inches and walks off by like half a country mile, is the one and only the smooth operator, Bobby Pierce.
Yeah, he's, he was arguably the number 1 or number 2 team driver car in the late model world last year. And they showed why. They're always right there. They did have a little bit of an issue earlier this year that we're going to talk about a little bit later, and that's why he's not right now in the top 5 in points. But it shouldn't be long before you put together a 2-race stretch where your worst finish was 2nd. Good things are going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. So, real quick, we'll give the rundown here in the point standing. Number 1, we have B-Shep Brandon Shepard. 2nd, Old Smokey Chris Madden. 3rd place, the young gun Nick Hoffman. 4th place, we have Cade Dillard, which is great to see. Cade's been a great driver building his own cars now.
Yeah, he's started off really well this year.
What a story. And then we have an Iowa native taking out number 5, Tyler Brewing, and that is so awesome to see someone, semi-local here, within about an hour and a half radius of Oskaloosa, battling for 5th in points with the big dogs on that series. So good job, Tyler, and that whole team.
Yeah, I think the addition of Mike Marler to that team has really helped Tyler. Tyler's always had the ability to do it, and they've always had the funding and the parts and the pieces, and it's just a matter of getting everything lined out, and he's able to really show what he can do. And I can remember racing before he went on the road. You'd go to Eastern Iowa and run some of the shows with some of the Eastern Iowa late model guys, and he was a force to be reckoned with there too. So there's always a little bit of a transition, and I think that he's through that, and he could very well be right in the mix all year long.
Absolutely. So now we're going to go back and switch gears back to sprint cars real quick. We're going to talk about the new series on the block, the version of Live Golf in the racing world. We have the High Limit Sprint Car Series. They kicked off at RPM Speedway. Corey Day won that race. Young kid.
Yeah, he had a really good battle with the Australian
Kerry Matson.
Kerry hit a hole wrong, and Corey slipped by for the win. 18 years old from California. This kid's got a bright future.
He's got one of the best crew chiefs.
Yeah, some people are comparing him to Kyle Larson. So,
oh boy.
And that series is running tonight.
They are
as
right
well.
Now.
So,
and then real quick, we'll go through the point stand there. We have Sunshine Tyler Courtney in first, the Big Cat Brad Sweet in second. Third, we have
Justin Marks,
Brett Marks, Marks, the Myerstown Missile, and then Corey Day in fourth, and in fifth place, the Concrete Kid Anthony Macri. So real awesome to see that there. And just real quick, we'll talk about Marshalltown over the weekend. We had King of the High Banks.
Big stock car
5K
show
to win
up there.
stock cars. And a guy who is no stranger to victory lane. He's been racing for over 40 years now.
Yes.
Building chassis, everything else. Kelly Shryock.
He's a legend in Iowa racing. It was great to see him get that win.
It is. We had Dylan Van Wyk, an Oskaloosa native, winning in the sport modified class up there Saturday night.
Yep.
Modifieds, we saw none other than Tom Berry Jr., the modified king right now, as I would probably call him. I mean,
between him and Tim Ward, it's a toss-up.
It's going to be both, an interesting
both real
year.
Good, so.
Hobby Stocks, a young man out of Kansas. He's been coming up here some, Cody Williams. And then in the Mod Lights, we had Dylan Rafferty out of Kansas City, Kansas. Him and his brother came up here to race, so that was pretty cool. And then in Sport Compacts, we had Devin Jones of Iowa. So that's all your results here real quick. Before we get done, we will talk about some upcoming races. Obviously, the first one we're going to talk about is tomorrow night at the Southern Iowa Speedway, our season opener.
Next week.
Oh, that's right, because of the rain out.
Yeah.
Wow. I forgot they decided to rain out. So we can edit that. Steve's laughing. I know we can't. We're live. So next week we'll have the live season opener.
Next week will be the season opener.
So instead we're going to have the Redneck Rally here this weekend.
Yes,
so again, that's Rally, Saturday and Friday.
Friday and Saturday.
You want to listen to me bamble on like I am now, you can come then. Thursday night, unless Curtis is about to shake his head no at me or someone's going to tell me I'm wrong.
You're spot on
okay,
for
good.
Thursday.
We have Mountain Dew Bloomfield Speedway Racing.
Yep.
Ken Schrader will be there.
That's what I've heard, yes.
So that's pretty awesome. NASCAR driver, legend in the sport will be there. So make sure you stop over there. On a national level, the World of Outlaws late model series is at Thunder Hill Raceway on Thursday night, and then Friday they're going to have the Alabama Gang 100 from the Talladega Short Track in Alabama. Those will both be live on Dirt Vision. Also Friday for the World Outlaw Sprint Cars from Pakuya International Speedway. They'll be racing there Friday, and then Saturday is the Hobbstown Showdown at Tri-State Speedway in Indiana. Again, both those races live on Dirt Vision. And then the High Limit Series on Friday night, they're at Southern Oklahoma Speedway. And then Saturday, they're at Salina High Banks. So it should be some really good racing. And those guys will be live on Flow Racing.
Yep.
So
yeah, we're really getting into the meat of the spring season here. So
a lot of races.
Time to get everything going and get out to the track and have fun with our friends.
Absolutely. Well, Curtis, again, thank you for joining us here tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
I'm glad we get to have you here part-time as the co-host. It's always a good time. Again, we want to thank Steve Shetler with Steve Shetler Media for putting this on. I'm your host, Safe Grafke with Dirt and Asphalt, and we will see you guys all next week with TNT, the Tuesday Night Tune-Up.